This is 10 tips to improve placement in merge tactics. First, we're going to talk about the asymmetrical board. So the board, as you can see, is asymmetrical. It's not perfect on both sides. So we can see that if we put a ranger here, there's only 2 melee troops that will be able to hit that ranger. But if we put the ranger here, 3 melee troops could hit the ranger. So it's a lot better to play your ranger in this corner back here to make it safer. The next tip I have is early game placement. If you have a tank and a ranger, you want to play it like this. If your opponent has another tank melee troop, it's forced to walk down to reach your troops, and while it's walking down, your ranger will get an extra hit off onto that troop. And remember to play in this corner right here. However, if you're running 2 rangers and this is early game, maybe first 2 rounds, you want to play it like this. If they have a melee troop come down, they're forced to walk down to this corner, kill this troop, and then walk to the next corner. This time of walking will give this extra troop more time to kill that tank, hopefully allowing you to win that round. Lastly, if you have 2 tanks, just play it at the front because you don't need to force your opponent's melee troops to walk down because there's no point. Just play it up front, try to get the most damage as possible. The next tip I have is standard placement. So standard placement will vary for a lot of different builds. Like this is the standard placement for a goblin thrower, but keep in mind the same principles apply. You're putting your ranger in here to protect it. You're putting 2 rangers around it to protect it from other incoming troops, to protect that ranger from a troop later. And then you're putting your tanks in front, and then you always want to put your most expendable troop up here. It might be your least starred troop, or it might be a troop that doesn't add too much fighting value. You put it here so everything targets it first, so while your better troops have time to move in and start their abilities, or do some damage. Again, good standard placement for a clan Avenger comp might look like this. You have your queen here. You don't want to put your queen in the back row ever because then it minimizes its value, so make sure you put it here. You can also put archer in this corner here to protect it. Additionally, let's say your barbarian is your worst troop. The same holds apply. You might want to consider putting your barbarian up here to take some damage as it tanks out as it's a low star, or you can have your Valkyrie here and also it can get some area damage. Next, let's talk about princess placement. If you're playing against rangers, you want to place your princess here so that the princess can hit all the rangers in the back because that will extend its range. However, if you're focused more on killing tanks and doing splash damage there, play in the 4th row. This will deny the princess's range in the back row and have it focus more on tanks in the front. Now, some tips on queen placement is make sure you play your queen in the 3rd row at the very least, not 4th row. You could also consider moving it up if it needs to maximize value. So if it's a 2-star queen and it needs to hit 3 troops to maximize value, then play it there. You can also consider putting queen in this spot right here. Again, because the board is asymmetrical, only 2 melee troops will be able to hit the queen at this spot right here, assuming no melee troop hits go below. However, on this side, 1, 2, 3 melee troops will be able to hit it. Additionally, if you play your queen up here, it can function as like a tank. This will allow the queen to activate its ability really early and then activate its bonus damage and then take out a bunch of your opponent's tanks. So if you have a high level queen and maybe it's earlier in the game, consider doing this to take out most of their front line and have an easy win. Now, if you're playing Executioner into 1-star, you want to make sure you put it in the 2nd row here. This will allow the Executioner to get geometry damage and hit the archers or whatever rangers in the back. If you play it down here as a level 1-star, it will not be able to reach the back line. Now, if you have a higher level Executioner, then you might want to also start learning geometry when you play. So these are the lines that the Executioner can hit. There's also some more lines that go in between these lines that I've shown here. And you want to start getting these in mind and getting more experience with them and paying attention to them. This will allow you to take out rangers in the back, which could be almost game-changing for you. Now we're going to talk about anti-placements. So this is an anti-assassin with the goblin thrower comp, and we're having our tanks on the side to prevent the assassins from moving in. And the thing with merge tactics is that because we have our troops back here and they're behind these troops, this will allow them to not move at all, and there's going to be no open gaps. So when the assassins come in, the Royal Ghost is only going to be able to land here, maybe Goblin here, and maybe Golden Knight here, or maybe even here. Now look at that. Your Rangers are still protected. So really understand about closing gaps and protecting your most important troops. Now this placement is also good for anti-bandit. Say your bandit is really killing you down and might cost you the game. Play it like this. Now there's no gaps, so when the bandit dashes, it won't be able to hit your best troop. Let's say that's our Executioner, right? Maybe later on in the game, when bandit isn't affecting you as much, you can play a different placement. But early game, this is important to know. Close the gaps. To add on, if they're playing Assassin with Splash, you got to play this placement. If their Assassin comes down here, the Mega Knight is there to tank it out. And then you're also preventing Splash by having these gaps in between here. And we're keeping the same placement principle of the Arch Queen by putting it up here so it can tank, get the ability early, and get the quick hits off of whatever ranger they've left in the back. Now for anti-princess, this is pretty straightforward. Make sure there's a gap between all your troops so the princess can't get area damage, because that's what maximizes its value. This also goes for anti-bomber placement as well, or if there's any other splash cards in the game. For anti-executioner, this is a little more niche and situational, but typically you just want to make sure your troops do not get lined up with their executioner, so watch their placement. If, for example, you have to play this position right here and they line up their executioner here, this is an example of a situational placement. You can put your barbarian here, and so as the barbarian walks up, your executioner is going to target the barbarian and none of your troops. So just put like an expendable troop, maybe like a 1-star here, something you don't need. This will tank the executioner hit and keep your most important units safe. Now for my 10th and final tip, we're going to talk about the ouch modifier. So it's pretty straightforward, right? You want to put your most tanky units in the front to get the modifier. Now it's important to note that with ouch, health equals damage. The more health your tank has, the more damage it's going to reflect over time. So you want to max out that health and make sure you definitely get everything on this row. You cannot lose on the value. Now for whatever reason you have clan in the ouch modifier, maybe you just got a bad hand, put your queen here, and so it can take out the tanks and the ranger. Same as what we said before. Have your Valkyrie at a spot where it will target multiple troops, and then always have your most expendable troop in the middle. Again, if you have giant skeleton, you also want to make sure you have that in the middle as well, so then other troops will target it first, because that's what you want to die first. So that's all I got so far for placement in this game. Of course, I'm still learning, so if you have any good suggestions, leave tips in the comments below. If you have any critique or maybe I said something wrong, please correct me in the comments. I'd love to know. And subscribe if you want to see more content on merge tactics and how to play. Of course, I'm getting better, and I'd love to help everyone get better as well. So thanks for watching.